Can I just say about Angus Bell? Is he available this week? Because he is here now, I think.
Angus Bell has arrived. Won't play this weekend. No, but he was in on Monday. He's got a few days just to settle into Belfast with a view to getting him ready for next week.
Okay, so we will be hopefully available next week.
Yeah.
He hasn't come with any particular issues.
No, he's come from the issues of playing international rugby for the last 15 games over 22 weeks, I think it was. So, but turned up on Monday morning, beaming and great personality, lovely fella, and mad keen to make a difference. So it'll be really exciting to see how he goes.
Okay, well, that's grand. You signed off in South Africa, obviously with the first defeat of the season, but you came away still with 6 points from the 2 games. Pleasing enough for you at this point, especially with South Africa out of the way?
Yeah, when we look back to the Lions game in isolation, we're a little bit disappointed with some of the stuff. We started the season so promisingly, and obviously picked up some really good wins. Probably didn't hit the same heights in our performance against the Lions, but there's many reasons for that. There's obviously rotation within the squad. There's playing at 145 at 30 degrees heat and 1800 meters in altitude. But taking all that and parking it, there were certain elements of our game that just weren't at the same level as they had been in the previous weeks.
Okay, but at least it's out of the way. That's the most important thing. Now, 10-game block, which is really the core of the season. Massive challenge because all sorts of stuff. You got weather, you got injuries, everything coming at you.
Yeah. We've had a really good sort of 3 weeks. So guys got sort of 10 days off, came back in. We had obviously 10 guys go away with the Irish A team, which took a week out of that, and we had 4 with the national senior team. But the other guys that were left here worked really hard over those 3 weeks. We treated it as a sort of a mini pre-season. So we got a lot of really good work into them. The focus areas that we took from the first four weeks, we've concentrated really hard on them and trying to improve, and hopefully we'll see the benefits from that on Friday evening.
And one more from me, Stuart Moore back now as well, away and then back again.
Yeah, it was a funny situation, probably not exactly how Stu or we wanted it, but after a few conversations and with the depth that we had in our backline, we gave him an option. There was an option for him to go and get experience and play some rugby. So that he took that up. We always had a callback clause on that, and over the period of those sort of 3 weeks in that sort of mini pre-season block, we picked up a couple of injuries. Most of them throughout our academy. But what it meant was that we were very short of backs. So Stu comes back in. He's available this weekend. He's trained Monday and Wednesday, and he's hit the ground running.
Thanks, Richie.
Okay.
Richie, what was, just going back on the first block, what was the most pleasing aspect?
I think it's just the tightness and the togetherness of the squad and how they look like we're much better in relation to being on the same page. I think that's improved massively. I think both attack and defence, we look harder to score against, and we're scoring plenty of tries, and we're looking after the ball well. So those areas have been really positive. It's now balancing that up and improving in and around our set piece, and there's a lot of work gone into that as well.
Benetton, a very tricky assignment to come back to.
Absolutely. They played Zebre last weekend in a friendly game, 44-21 I think they won. They're a funny team because their squad is huge and their budget is very big. You know what I mean? They have a lot of foreign players, so when their Italian players go to Italy, a lot of their foreign players play, and that's what we saw probably last weekend. So how they mix that up and how they prepare for this week, it's very hard to know, because are their Italian players back? Is there some of them back, some of them not back, and what will they do with their foreign contingent? So we're concentrating very much on ourselves and we'll expect the best version of Benetton, and that's physicality, it's direct, it's strong running, so it'll definitely test our defence.
Yeah, obviously, with the exception of Stuart, internationals are all available this weekend.
Yep.
And so how pleasing was it to see those guys, particularly Nick Timoney, get a lot more game time?
Yeah, obviously two selections for Nick. Hendy had one and Jacob one. Good to see them out there. Great to see 4 guys in the squad. We've always said that if we can make this team more competitive and stronger, the more we do that, the more players will get into the national setup, and that has to be our goal. I suppose the 10 players that went away with Ireland A is a massive improvement on what we sent away with them in the Six Nations period last year.
Thank you.
Right.
Richie, we're coming in that last weekend in November. You had 4 games, you've had a month off. Were you tempted to get a friendly in? Or?
No, not really. A game last weekend allowed us sort of get some of our senior guys into that game. With 10 weeks on the bounce, another game on top of that would probably be too much. Yes, it means that your training has to be really sharp in order to be ready for this week. But we feel like we've actually sort of closed that gap, and we've done that quite well.
Does it feel like it was maybe a pre-season? I may be wrong on this, but I don't remember a full month off in November.
Well, probably not after 4 weeks. Normally you get 5 weeks, you know what I mean, and then there's a break. But yeah, we've made use of the time, and it's been good for us in that regard. Did we want a break when we got it? I'm not sure, but like coming back from South Africa, it literally, fits in really well to how we've sort of got ourselves ready to go into this next block.
How do you prepare on Friday night to not be undercooked, or do you think there'll be a bit of rustiness the first 10 or 15?
I'm hoping not. Like we've worked really hard. We put a lot of time into our game on both sides of the ball. We've done a little bit of extra work in and around that contact area. So look, if the ball goes on the ground a couple of times, it's how you react and what you do off the back of that. But we're expecting to hit the ground running. The senior international guys came back in on Monday. They're all busting a gut to get back out there. So we're in a good place at the moment.
Well, Nick, busy November.
Yeah, no, pretty enjoyable. Obviously mixed results, but it was good to be involved with the full squad again. Kind of felt like a bit of a change, obviously, with Ireland, with all the Lions people back in and Andy back in and stuff. Cool experience over in Chicago, and then nice to get a couple games, yeah. But obviously disappointing result on the weekend, but
yeah,
that's part of it.
It was good to get see an extra run out here. We spoke a few weeks ago, and it was all about getting that extra cap in an hour run out in November. How good was it to go against Australia?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, kind of felt like the first, tier 1, I guess, nation to be that was actually picked for in the squad, and nice to be picked on the bench as well, because it felt at times like it's either been starting or not in the squad, just as being seen as kind of more of a 7. Generally tends to be the way. So no, I thought it was enjoyable. Obviously, felt like I got involved more than I ever have in another campaign, really, even though I only played twice. But it was good for me. Hopefully, we can kick on.
Did you come face to face with Angus Bell during that game?
Don't.
Are we passing it low?
No, yeah, no, not properly. We were chatting to him after though, and he seems excited. Says he can't wait to get stuck in. He's looked pretty damn good, to be fair. The last couple of weeks, his try on the weekend against France was pretty impressive as well. So we obviously can't wait for him to get started as well. So he seems like a nice guy.
So back to the bread and butter this week. Benetton, sort of challenge you expecting from them?
They're a really good team. They're play really physical rugby. Big ball carriers in the pack, really good at set piece. They've got dangerous backs, physical backs as well. So it's hard to know exactly what team they'll have, just with some of their Italian lads. You don't know if they'll play or not, but either way, they've got a lot of depth, and they'll have a tough team no matter what, no matter who they pick. So yeah, it's going to be a tough game, but we're obviously well prepped, well versed on what they're going to bring, and we can't wait to get back playing at home. Hopefully get a good crowd and get some momentum going again, because we obviously had a fairly positive start to the season, and the last game I know wasn't didn't quite go how we wanted it, but it feels like we're progressing and we want to keep showing it. So.
Cheers, thank you. Go well.
No, thank you.
Nick, your try against Japan, I suppose you probably haven't scored any quite like that maybe at international level. You've been able to run in from so far. How on earth did that, I mean, I think it just was one of those bouncing balls. It wasn't quite foreseen, everybody stopped. Was that
pretty much. The first half of that game was pretty chaotic. It felt like they play a very, very high ball and play game, and we're not exactly trying to slow the game down either with Ireland, so it kind of felt like it got a bit hectic at times, and I think maybe it was 30 odd minutes in and the ball had been in play for 2 or 3 minutes and it went on the ground, and I think everyone, obviously, or some people seem to presume it was going to be a whistle, but luckily for me it didn't come, so got in the end of one. It was nice.
No, it showed you again what you bring to the game, the pace as well as the power, because you really were motoring. But I was just going to say as well, when you're down in Ireland camp, and obviously you're around people like Josh, I know Josh was injured and came back for the South Africa game, but are you able to pick stuff off him? Can he share things with you? Because it is tricky, obviously, because you will potentially be playing against each other at some point.
Yeah, no, it is funny. Yeah, you spend loads of time with certainly the people in your position. Like me and Josh spent loads of time together. As much just from the point of view that we're like, when the team hasn't been named, but it's not usually named till halfway through the week, so you're kind of prepping all week, and whichever of us it is that's going to be playing is going to be doing the same role. So we spend loads of time. We'd spend time in the evenings going through all the plays, making sure we're doing all the things the same. How are we defending off line-outs? How are we defending off scrums? All that kind of stuff. Doing a bit of looking at the opposition. So it's hard to say one thing. It's not like Josh is doing something crazy I've never heard of before, but he's obviously one of the best players in the world and has been the best player in the world in the not so recent or not so distant past. So just spending time with someone like him, and if you can, align your habits and the way you train and do stuff with loads of people in that group, but certainly with someone like Josh is great. Yeah, it's really good for me.
I'm guessing when he was back available with South Africa, you probably were expecting that, so it wasn't a difficult conversation when you couldn't get another run against the Box, I suppose.
Yeah, I was disappointed still, obviously, as you always are. As I kind of alluded to before, just there, it's like I'd love the idea of covering, certainly being seen as covering all the back row positions, because I've obviously done that countless times here. But you can see the logic certainly in that, and it wasn't necessarily overly surprising, but it's still a huge game, and it was good to not be involved. But it's a competitive position as it always has been. So yeah.
And were you at the game itself, or were you for it? All right, so you saw it up close. It was probably pretty awesome.
it was a serious game. I know all the talk's been about the chaos of it, and that's obviously an accurate word, but I thought it was two of the very best teams in the world really going at it, and I thought, although there's obviously stuff I'm sure we'll be disappointed with from an Irish point of view, there was still some incredibly impressive play mixed in with it. So.
Can I ask you as well about the hybrid player thing? I mean, we've had Tom Stewart playing 7, which I think he did actually for the Lions game when you were away, and Esterhuizen coming on as well. What's your take on it? I mean, could you see yourself also, like somebody said, you're going to have to play hooker?
Well, I played hooker a couple of pre-seasons ago when Tom and Rob Herring were away with the World Cup squad, and James McCormick was injured, and I played 20 minutes against Leinster in Navan or wherever that game was at hooker, and I'd still practice the odd, like throwing the odd time just for a laugh before or after training, but I definitely think there's a sense that that's the way rugby's going. Just gives you more freedom with who you can pick, and if innovation is certainly would imply that would be the way things go, is you can play Ben Earl in the centre, or you can bring him on at the back row, or you can. Esterhuizen's obviously a great example of it. Dion Free, it's like the Springboks have obviously been doing that for a while now. But I remind John Fogarty all the time that I can play hooker, but hasn't yet worked from getting me picked. But I'm all for it. I've said before, I'll play pretty much anywhere you want me to, and I feel like doing an alright job of it. So maybe I'm delusional, but who knows.
And just one more from me. When you come back, obviously from Ireland camp, you've been away for a month. the systems, the calls here, how quickly can you just click back into it? Because obviously you've been working to an entirely different way of operating now for, what, 5 weeks maybe?
Yeah, it takes a day or two, right? The calls and all the stuff here is, the language is so ingrained in my head. Also, though, that it's kind of doesn't take a whole lot of time because feel like I've been using a lot of the same stuff for a long time. But yeah, there's definitely a day or two, and there'd be the odd word that maybe means something different there versus here, and you sort of takes you half a second to think about it. But no, you can forget about it pretty quick and get back in.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to want to talk about rugby being broken games lost in 132 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you think there is a quick fix, or do you think the officials need to get to the right decision?
I get the complaint in that, you know, obviously people all think they want quick games and stuff, but I also feel like Saturday's game was one of the best I've watched in a while as well, for obviously a different set of reasons. But no, I kind of always said rugby to the actual rules of it is like crazy game, and refereeing it's borderline impossible, and sticking to it, we were just all in too deep by the time game was too ingrained in all of us by the time we actually realized half these rules were there and we might actually need to stick to them. But that's part of it. That seems to be a large part of today's game being successful in it is, can you actually be strict on yourselves? Can you adhere to as many of those as possible? It's not going to be possible to ever play, really, or very unlikely to play a game where your team's not giving away some penalties or some knock-ons, or the odd card nowadays in rugby is inevitable. But I think a lot of the stuff that people are very upset about kind of levels out over time. The cards and stuff, a lot of them are going to level out, and it is just about avoiding as many of them as possible, and maybe that's a larger part of what being a good rugby team or a good rugby player is nowadays, is avoiding the ones that, although a lot of the cards these days, or the vast majority, there's no intent in the way that to get red carded 15 years ago you had to try and go out and hurt someone or do something pretty bad. That obviously isn't the case anymore, but being a good player now is obviously part of that, is avoiding all that stuff, and it is doable, not maybe 100% of the time, but for large parts of the time it is. And if that's an adaptation that rugby kind of feels needs to happen on behalf of the teams and players rather than on behalf of the rules, then I think that's the way things are going. So.
Yeah, does your training for games lost a lot longer these days?
You probably can. It's just there's an interesting, a Saturday was a great example of sort of differing spectrums of how teams want to play rugby. And Springboks, obviously, not that they want to slow the game down necessarily, but they want to scrum, and that is going to slow the game down by definition. And if they have an advantage there, they're going to take it to its extreme. But then, as I said, the 2 weeks previous when we played Japan, like the first half, I don't know what the actual stats are, but they were taking quick lineouts every 2 minutes. The ball was in play non-stop, and that would be, that might be their way of making the game go in your advantage. So, there are certain teams that are going to play to certain strengths, and not every game is going to be 132 minutes. But obviously, in extreme scenarios, it can happen. But I guess would be more on making sure all areas of your game are robust enough that you don't fall victim to some of the ones we did in the weekend.
Oh, you weren't on the pitch in Saturday, but have you ever been on a game where scrum has been that much dominated? What can you actually do?
I probably have. I won't say for who, but yeah, it's obviously tough to play when the Springboks obviously have the best scrum in the world at the moment, and that goes probably a few deep in their depth chart. They're incredibly good, and I'd say everyone else in world rugby is probably looking to keep stepping their game up to catch up, certainly by the time the World Cup comes around. But it's very difficult obviously to play like that, but fair play to them. It's incredibly impressive. It's not scrums are very intentionally still a part of rugby, and being the best of them is obviously very valuable. So yeah, fair play to them. Gotta all catch up.